You are listening to Real Life and Other Fantasies, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello, fellow storytellers, and welcome to this edition of Real Life and Other Fantasies. My guest today is a professional artist, though she didn't start painting until she was 35 years old. She's an author of 6 books, even though she didn't write her first book until she was 50. Then she became a life and creativity coach at age 56. Rachel Ann Ridge, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
Looking forward to our conversation. So I don't know if there's a matron saint of late bloomers, but if there's not, I'm going to write your name in on the Vatican election ballot today. So you're going to be henceforth known as the matron saint of late bloomers.
Oh,
and
okay.
Do you know if you have to write an induction speech or anything for that?
Boy, give me a minute and I'll come up with something, because that is an honor that I will definitely take.
Okay, so first thing I want to do is start off today with a little bit of optimism and positivity. I don't know if it'll go downhill from there, but we'll start off on the right foot. So what is there about American culture in 2023 that gives you, as a life coach, the most hope?
Well, I have thought about that a lot overnight. You gave me a little bit of a heads up that you were going to ask. And, it's just so easy to focus on all of the negative. But I do see a lot of positive. And I think that just the fact that we can connect through social media, through the internet, through so many different ways, it is possible to get people out of their little silos and their backwaters and the places where they're comfortable, and get out and actually see and get to know people and circumstances that are outside of their little bubble. I know for me, just living in the modern age with the connectivity that we have has been absolutely life-changing. It's been what has allowed me to pursue art and writing and creativity and find my people. So I see so many positives in what we have today, just in our culture in general. And I think that if people just get out there and make the most of what's available to them, some really wonderful things can happen.
I completely agree. And you mentioned the word silo, and we tend to sort of cordon ourselves off from other people a lot of times. But one of your jobs is as a life and creativity coach, as I mentioned. And one of the things that I've noticed and read about in recent months is one of the least discussed public health crises in this country is loneliness. So we're connected socially on social media, but we don't really connect in real life. So people tend to be cut off from each other. And then when they, especially teenagers, and when they get a chance to interact, they don't really know how. They don't have social skills. So my question is do you think there's a mental health crisis, or is a mental health crisis a natural result of the isolation, or are they separate issues?
Oh, I think it's all interconnected for sure. But this is a new thing that, this is a new day for humanity. So it's going to take a while for us to, just as people, to figure out how to overcome some of the challenges that have come along with the benefits of being able to be connected. Social media is a wonderful thing, a wonderful way to connect us to people. But like you said, then we're looking at our screens rather than face to face. But look, this is a really recent phenomenon, right? I mean, it's only been the last 10 or 15 years that this has been a thing. So we have to figure out, as humans, how to make the most of it and how to meet the challenges of loneliness and the social issues that come with it. And I do believe that we will be able to do that, but it's going to take some time, and we're all the guinea pigs right now. The young people, we're cutting our teeth all together on this new thing. And but I do believe that we will see our way through it.
Okay. Part of our social media culture, excuse me, is connecting with people online to share things, or sometimes to just argue with strangers that we've never met, which is kind of an odd thing to me. But another big part of it, especially on sites like Facebook and Instagram, are for people to appear perfect. So there's perfect makeup on Instagram for younger people, or perfect vacation photos, or even perfect meals at the right temperature for older people on Facebook. How do you think, or how do you recommend we get back to something more real?
That is hard because we look at the photos, we see the posts of the people who seem to be doing everything perfectly. We're seeing a snapshot of their perfection. Then, of course, we tend to look at our own lives and feel less than, or feel like we could never measure up. And then that in turn keeps us from reaching out because, our self-esteem is plummeted. I think we all have to really take a step back from our smartphones and tablets and turn off these things that are really intended to keep us, attached and habitually looking. And I'm right there with everyone else. I got to turn off the Twitter and and the Facebook like everyone, and get on with the business of really being connected to the people who are in my real life, who are right in front of me. I have beautiful grandkids and family and friends. And so if we have our noses just glued to our screens, we are missing out on the beauty that's right in front of us. And it's a challenge for each of us, not just younger people, but older people as well, the grandparents and, the older people, they're glued to Facebook too. So we all have to meet the challenge and kind of break that habit and look at the people and the life that is around us, because there are beautiful things going on, and we'll miss it if we're only looking at our screens.
You mentioned your family. I know you recently had a grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your family, whatever you want to share about them?
Well, your listeners have probably figured out that I'm older than 56 since I started. So I have 3 grown children. They're all married. I have 6 grandchildren that are just the light and the delight of my life. This is a really fun season of life for me. But I really started my career in art and writing when I was in the trenches of raising kids and trying to do all the things, get dinner on the table and get people to hockey practice and choir concerts and all of that. So it is really fun to be on the other side of all that activity and get to enjoy the new little people that have been brought into my life. It's really a lot of fun. But I always say that somehow my children survived me as their mom, because I've always been just so distracted and with my head in the clouds, dreaming up stories and art and things. And they've had to, tap me on the shoulder, mom, bring me back to reality. Oh yeah, that's right. We've got hungry people here in the house. So somehow, they managed to survive an imperfect mom, an imperfect family, and really is testament to the fact that we really can do some amazing things, even if we don't live up to that level of perfection that we think that we need to have in order to raise good people.
So compare being a grandparent to being a mother.
Well, let's see. Being a grandparent, you get to give big scoops of ice cream and all the cherries and whipped cream on top that you would never give to your kids when they're growing up, because it's not good for them. But it's just a joy to be in a different role. When you have these little people that you're their nana or you're their grandparent, you just you realize that you're making memories, and even though you're not there necessarily day to day, you get to be a cheerleader, being someone who loves and can support their parents, and it's a wonderful place to be. It still has its challenges, of course, but they keep you busy, keep you laughing. They're just really something.
Yeah, being a grandparent is so much fun. I'm also a grandparent, and if there was some way to be a grandparent first, that should be an option. Like when you become an adult, you should be able to find a form that says, I want to be the grandparent first. And maybe we could be better parents if we were grandparents first. I don't know. Maybe we're good grandparents because we were parents and learned from our mistakes as we got older.
Well, I think we're a lot more relaxed. We realize, I think when you're a parent and you're raising the little ones, you're really afraid of making mistakes. And that if you, lose your temper or, lose it sometimes, as we all do, or you don't, get your kids signed up for all these classes and their life is going to be ruined. And, we have the blessing of perspective. As grandparents, we can see that, oh, actually, these kids are going to turn out just fine if you, if they have corn dogs for dinner and, or cereal for dinner or something, you didn't do everything just right. They are going to be very resilient and come back and thank you someday. So we have that blessing of perspective that that parents don't always have.
Yeah. So I think the key there is being flexible, something that we learn along the way with the perspective. So that sort of leads me to some of your other work in working with donkeys. So just want to specify, we don't mean jackasses because we're not in the political arena. At least I'm not anymore. We're talking about donkeys. So are donkeys more or less stubborn than the people you've worked with?
Okay, well, I always say it takes one to know one, and I have heard, and I do appreciate all the jackass jokes and stories. Some of them may or may not be true, but yes, donkeys are a thing in my life, and some of your listeners may be going, "Wow, this took a weird turn."
I like to keep people on their toes.
Oh, but I actually have now 3 donkeys, but I certainly did not start out in my life ever thinking that I would be writing about or thinking about or promoting these long-eared, stubborn, but beautiful animals. My life certainly took a twist in that direction, and something that I'm truly grateful for, and has opened up a whole new world for me.
Okay, we'll come back to that on the second half of the show after the break. But one more question before we do take a break. Were there specific events that finally motivated you to become an artist, author, and a life coach?
Oh, specific events. I think I've always felt that I was creative, even as a child. I loved to doodle and I loved to write and things. But I did have a time when I was in I guess it was my 9th grade, high school, signing up for electives. I was so excited about signing up for an art class was going to be my elective. And could not wait to get into that class. First day of class, we were given an assignment, and the teacher had us all sitting in had our desks all lined up in a square. And in the middle of that big square in the room, there was a table with a vase on it, a very simple, tall vase. And we were given a piece of paper and a pencil. And the teacher said, now I want you to draw that vase without looking at your paper and pencil. Just by looking at it, I want you to take your hand and draw the vase. Well, I immediately just froze. I could not do this. I was looking down. It was terrible. It looked, I was erasing. I was starting over. Meanwhile, all the other kids in the class seemed to be doing just fine on their drawings. They turned in their papers and left the class. I was the last kid left. And I stayed after class to talk to the teacher. I just felt like I just, needed some encouragement or something. And so I stayed after class and was going to ask for some help. And I remember so clearly the teacher looking over his glasses at me, and he said, young lady, if you can't do this first assignment in class, you have no business being in my art class.
Wow.
And I was so embarrassed and ashamed. I could feel the tears forming. And so I went immediately and dropped the class and took home ec, and it just crushed my dreams of being a creative artist. And, who knows what that teacher was going through that day, I'm sure if he could go back and do things over, he would not have said such a crushing remark. If only he had said that art is so much more than just paper and pencil. I mean, I still struggle to draw, but I love to paint. There is macrame, there's pottery, there is collage. There are so many different art forms that can be had, and I wasn't made aware of it that day. I thought if you can't draw with a paper and pencil, then you can't be an artist. And so I put that dream aside for many, many years, in fact, decades, until I was a mom with 3 little kids in my mid-30s and just kind of dying inside I just wanted to do something creative and didn't know what I could do. I signed up for a little art class at my local MJ Designs. They had a little ad in the newspaper. Remember those? And it was for a toll painting class. And I dipped my little craft paintbrush into some paint and started painting on a little tile trivet. And in that moment, something just sparked in me, and something came to life, and I realized I can do something creative, and it's fun, and it doesn't have to be museum worthy. I can just, enjoy it for the sake of enjoyment. And that moment, Melvin, was the moment that really changed everything for me. When I realized that I could be creative, that I could do something that was just fun and beautiful, and started a whole new career in art just from that one little crafting class.
Wow, that's great. All right, so what about writing? How'd you get into that later?
Well, back in the early days of the interwebs, before social media, before Twitter and Instagram, people had blogs that people read. And I had heard about blogging, and I thought, I like to throw some words onto the page and jump into that. And so I began blogging back in 2006, I think. And I thought that I would be putting out posts about creativity, about art, or like how to refinish your furniture, or how to paint a mural on your wall, because that's what I had ended up doing as a career. I did one post like that and realized I hated doing step-by-step posts. But I did learn that I loved telling stories, and that I had little stories from my life that, made me laugh, made people laugh. And then I had this donkey that had just landed on my driveway, and I started, sharing stories about this crazy stray donkey that arrived. And I found that I could just connect with people through these little blog posts and these stories. And that's really how I got my writing chops, by creating, 800 to 1,000 word blog posts every day, and found what I was good at writing about, found the people that enjoyed hearing my stories. And that's when I thought, maybe I can put these stories into a book. And again, with the beauty of Google University, learned what it takes to really put words into a book form and go for it in that way. So that's how I really got started from art and writing. I kind of see it as a continuation of really it's all art. It's all putting yourself out there and just inviting the world into your life.
That's great. I've had similar experiences, and I'd like to continue talking about that. But we need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Rachel Ann Ridge to ask her what the donkey principle is, and if more people are like a donkey or a racehorse. We'll be right back in a moment.
The Wimberley Story Fest will be held from October 12th through the 14th in the picturesque Texas Hill country town of Wimberley. The 2023 Story Fest will celebrate story in all its forms. This year's 3-day festival in Pioneer Town highlights storytellers, singer-songwriters, filmmakers, and visual artists. You can also join us on Friday and Saturday evenings around the campfire for songs and stories. It will be a big weekend for stories, and there will also be interesting activities associated with the annular eclipse on Saturday. October 12th to the 14th is the weekend. Wimberley, Texas is the place. We are proud that the Real Life and Other Fantasies podcast is a sponsor of the Wimberley Story Fest. Go to their website for tickets and more information at www.wimberleystoryfest.org. That's www.wimberleystoryfest.org. See you there.
Make 1908 House of Wine and Ale your new favorite destination between San Antonio and New Braunfels. With 15 ales on tap, more than 30 craft beers in cans and bottles, and over 70 wines, we have a selection that's perfect for both relaxing with a glass or gathering with your friends. We even have wine on tap.
That's right, we have wine on tap.
www.1908houseofwine.com.
Family and animal friendly.
We're back, and we're hearing stories this week from Rachel Ridge, an author, life coach, donkey whisperer, and as recently as the first minute of today's episode, the new matron of the new matron saint of late bloomers. She didn't even know she had that honor coming to her when we started this conversation today, but here we are. So, Rachel, one of your jobs is helping people get unstuck. So, what often leads people to get stuck in the first place?
Well, I think all of us, I think if we're honest, feel stuck in some place in our life. My sweet spot is helping people get unstuck with their creative dreams or their little idea that they might have that they're afraid to move forward with. But as a late bloomer, I know what it's like to wish that you could do something, to wish that you could get out there and make something beautiful, or put words on a page, or start a creative business, or just branch out, go for a job promotion, or start a new relationship. We all, in some ways, are we're stuck on the sidelines watching other people seem to go for their dreams with ease, and we wish that we could do that. And so one of the things that I love doing is just helping people to get unstuck in those areas of their lives. And we can go through a series of questions and talking about their life stories, and really getting to a place where people can give themselves permission to take that first step towards something. Because really, it takes a first step. Often we see the finish. Let's say, for example, you want to write a book, and you see a finished book, a finished product, and you think, there is so much that's going to happen. That's so big. That's so hard. I don't even know where to begin. And so day after day, month after month, year after year goes by, and you never make any progress on that big thing that you really, really want to do. And we even don't tell people about our dreams because it seems so silly and so big and so unlikely, that we can ever make anything happen. And really it comes down to having the courage to take the first steps, making small steps, small incremental progress toward that thing. Often you'll end up somewhere completely different than where you thought you were going to be, but by taking those little steps, you really can accomplish amazing things in your life. If I had set out with a college degree in art when I was 20 years old, who knows where I would have been. But the fact that it took me so long to even be able to articulate a desire to be a creative, goodness, mid-30s. I mean, most people are, you would say, too late, that ship has sailed. But for me, that was just the beginning, and realizing that it is really never too late to start on that creative project or on that thing that you want to do. It will take time, and so there's no time like the present to get started on it.
Well, that's a good segue for something I want to mention, and just being just an open book here. So what led me to launch this particular podcast was my own frustration in my job search process. So I have over 30 years of experience as a communications expert, as an author. But when I started looking for a job last year, I couldn't get anybody to hire me. So after reaching a point of frustration, I just decided to hire myself. And that led me here. So I'm wondering if that kind of thing is typical, where people finally get to a point where they just put their heels in the ground and head defiantly in the opposite direction and make their own course.
Well, I do think that oftentimes when we hit a wall, we got to figure out how to cut a door through that wall, and those things, those interruptions in our plans, the when things go sideways, those can actually be a catalyst for getting you going in the direction that you're really supposed to go all along. It can really be the start of something amazing, but you would never know it, had you gotten that job right off the bat, or if you'd just had everything fall into place, you'd be heading down a path and never have veered into something that could potentially bring you a lot of joy and opportunities and bring you in connection with other people. Who knows what the future holds? You've done something. You've said, all right, this isn't going to stop me. I'm going to do something else. And I think that's such a great lesson really for all of us. I mean, I think that we tend to come up against these brick walls or these obstacles, and it causes us to just stop in our tracks, and we freeze and we sit in this place of fear. Like, well, okay, well, I have all this experience. I've prepared. I have a degree. This is the only thing I know how to do. This is the only thing I can do. And then we get so focused on that we can't see that maybe there's another way forward. Maybe there's a path that's a little bit sideways, that you could take, that you can't see where it's ultimately going to lead you, but maybe there's just a crack, a little open door that you can go through. And I think it's just fantastic that you're doing this. I mean, I'm sure you've already had interviews with people that, you wouldn't normally send an email to and say, hey, you want to be, on my podcast. Friendships, relationships, opportunities, so many things happen, sometimes out of the deepest, darkest moments in our lives where we think we just can't, we don't see anything good happening. But there's always something that you can do that may be different than what you set out to do in the first place. But that little bend in the road, that curve, that can ultimately be the thing that brings you the most joy and the most opportunity, the most reward and blessing, more so than you could have ever imagined.
Absolutely. I couldn't have guessed this, but I'm enjoying it tremendously, meeting lots of great people. I've met you before, but getting a chance to talk more extensively, this is a great opportunity for me. And I hope my audience enjoys the conversations that we have with people and listening to their stories. Because I was talking to a neighbor yesterday, and I said, everybody's got a story, at least one, but most people just haven't thought about how to tell their story. Some people are natural storytellers, and other people aren't. And the ones who are can teach the ones who aren't. And the ones who aren't necessarily it's not because they don't have whatever talent might be required, is they just haven't tried it yet. So this goes along with the conversation that we've been having so far. Sometimes you just step out there and give something a shot that you might have thought about doing, but never had the courage. And once you give it a shot, you just never know where it might head, where it might lead.
And sometimes we don't have the courage until we're really forced into it. And we have to, it's a sink or swim kind of a situation. We don't change until it's just too uncomfortable to stay the same. And so then we're like, well, okay, I guess we're going to have to do this. And so then we do have to step out and do it. It reminds me of back in the early days when I had first picked up a paintbrush and fell in love with, craft painting. And I painted little birdhouses and flower pots and just, was having a blast doing that. Well, then I had a house full of birdhouses and flower pots. So I, gave them as gifts, went through all the birthdays and Christmas and Mother's Day and, did another year giving stuff away and then still had too much. So what did I do with it? I made a little booth in a craft mall and put my things into a craft mall thinking, all right, well, I'll just do, paint some little furniture and some little things. I printed up some business cards. And my whole business plan was to make enough money so that I could go get my hair highlighted without dipping into the grocery funds. Because hair highlights are expensive, right? We were on a limited budget.
Goals are important.
You know what? Whatever it takes. So that was my big goal, was just to make a little bit of extra money with my little flower pots. Well, what happened was people got my little business cards and they said, called me and asked, could you come and, paint a nursery mural? Or, this is back in the early 2000s. We were all into painting flowers and grapevines and roses all over everything. So I have painted miles and miles of grapevines and roses throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But it was just, it was perfect for me. And one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I actually had a business that my husband eventually came and joined me. And the two of us had this art and mural and design business that started from one tiny spark, a little toll painting class that I just gave myself permission just to do that one little thing. And then by taking that one little thing and following a series of saying yes, when someone asked me, could you come and I have your flower pot. Now, could you come and paint this dresser in my kids' room? Now, could you come and do a mural? Things got bigger and bigger and one thing led to another, but it's really a series of yeses, or a series of giving yourself permission to face the fears that you might have, that you're going to mess up, that you're not going to do it right, that, someone's not going to like what you're putting out there, and doing it anyway. And when you do that, life, that little door that was just a tiny little crack, it opens wider and wider, and you can step into something that you could not have imagined. And that's the way that my late bloomer story unfolded, just by simply saying yes to something that I loved and enjoyed.
That's awesome. And then going from being an artist to an author, I mentioned at the top of the show that you've written 6 books, and the most recent one is called The Donkey Principle. We've talked about donkeys a lot so far. The subtitle is The Secret of Long Haul Living in a Racehorse World. So my question is, how do people embrace their inner donkey, and what does that even mean?
Well, I have to just backtrack just for a moment and just explain how I just fell in love with these crazy donkeys. But one night many years ago, in the middle of our art career, this was right when the housing crisis had hit and our painting and mural business had just plummeted. And I was at a really, really low point, and wondering how we were going to make it, how we were going to pay the bills. And we were coming home one night from a project. And I just remember a moment of just praying one of those prayers that's just like, oh God, please just do something. I need a miracle here. And right about that time, we turned our vehicle onto our long dirt driveway out here in the country. And right in front of our car, our Explorer, was a donkey, a stray donkey that was just standing right there in the middle of the road. And in that moment, I was not thinking, oh, this is my miracle that I just prayed for. I was thinking that my miracle would be the Publishers Clearinghouse people with a big check, saying I've just won $5,000 a week for the rest of my life. That would have been the miracle that I was looking for. Instead, I got this stray donkey. And long story short, we put this donkey into our pasture for what we thought was an overnight stay. And he has since become a permanent member of our family, and he's really become my the catalyst for doing some of the internal work to really grow. I found myself really identifying with this shabby stray donkey. I have felt so many times like a stray shabby donkey living in a world that celebrates the racehorses, the people who are the fastest and the shiniest and the first to the finish line, and who seem to be getting all the glory. They're standing in the winner's circle, and then there's me. I'm just I didn't finish my college degree. I just have this little art business. I'm just, in this little tiny town and, in Texas, and what can I offer the world? And one day it just occurred to me that, if you feel like a donkey in a racehorse world, why not actually embrace being a donkey? They have the qualities that aren't just made, they're not made for a racetrack and a winner's circle and a little gold medal, but donkeys are really made for an entire gold mine. They are willing to do the hard work, to go time after time after time into the mine to bring up not just a little medal's worth of gold, but a whole, a whole mother load of gold to the surface. And they are resilient and resourceful and charming and willing to work with others when it gets hard. Those are things that we can all identify with, right? So embracing your inner donkey is what I call it. Just embracing your own story, your own resilience, the hard things that have brought you to where you are today, and taking those things in and turning it into fuel, that just realizing that not all of us are made or built for a racetrack. Maybe we aren't the fastest and the shiniest out of the block. That is okay. Fine. Enjoy your winner circle, people. But we've got a gold mine to work on. And each of us has that ability to dig deep for the gold that's within us and bring that to the surface and really bless the world with our gifts. It may not be glorious at all times. It may require a lot of a lot of hard work. But this is what we're made for. If you are feeling like you don't have much to offer to the world, I just encourage your listeners to take stock of what has gotten you to where you are today, and then mine that story for how you can work forward. That resilience that has gotten you to where you are is going to be able to propel you forward to accomplishing the things that you have on your bucket list, or that little dream that is just a tiny little ember in the back of your mind. Those are the things that embracing your inner donkey is perfect for.
That's incredible. So for people who are feeling a connection to the story and think that maybe there are lessons that a donkey could teach me, how could they literally actually adopt a donkey? I know you've had events in the past few months. So if somebody wants to adopt a donkey, how could they do that, and why would they want to do that?
Well, why not adopt a donkey, right? Well, not everybody has the place, that could house a donkey, but there are thousands of donkeys that are adoptable and available. I have adopted all three, and now have three donkeys. They've all either come from a donkey rescue organization or by auction, or of course, Flash, my original donkey, he just showed up one day and needed a home. So it is possible. There are donkey rescue organizations. There's a huge one here in Texas, Peaceful Valley Donkey Rescue. You can find them, but and then if you cannot have a donkey yourself, you can always sponsor them. You can always donate. But they're beautiful creatures that in many ways have seen their heyday has kind of come and gone, where they really built the American West. They did the plowing, the hauling, the mining, and donkeys still around the world support over 600 million people, families, communities in developing parts of the world. So we really need to support our working equines. We maybe here in the U.S. might think that donkeys are useless. We kind of see them more as pets, and they do make wonderful pets, but they are still important contributing members of societies that are all around the world who are depending on them for their livelihood. So it's a really interesting world. Connect with me if you're interested in hearing more about donkeys. I can give you all of the deets.
All right. So in the show description, the show notes, I'll make sure I have your link. So if somebody wants to talk to you about adopting a donkey, you can hook them up.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect.
Good. All right. So as we wind down this interview, I have one more question. In your book, you write, "This is the truest thing about you. You are enough and you're worthy." Can you unpack what those words mean?
Just hearing you say those words almost brings a tear to my eye. I just wonder how many of us have actually ever heard those words spoken to us, or taken those words to heart, that you are enough and you are worthy. When we feel like we're the donkey in a racehorse world, we think that the worthy people are the ones that are, in that winner's circle, getting all the glory. They're the Instagrammers, they're the influencers, the people that seem to have it all together. And we can look at our own lives and feel like, what do I have to offer? I'm just, I'm a lowly donkey in this world. And we do need to be reminded that you are enough, just as you are. You are worthy of the space that you take up. You are worthy of living your best life, or as I like to say, it's your goodest life. That we all have a purpose in life, and we can simply just look around and see the blessings that are around us. We all have challenges. Some of us have deep challenges that are very difficult, very hard. But even in the midst of that, you are enough. And you are worthy. You are worthy of all the love, all of the expression, all of the joy, all of the fulfillment that is coming your way. And when you truly believe that, you can step out and take that first step toward those things that you are secretly dreaming about, and come to embrace the life that you have. I think we often spend so much time wishing for another kind of life that is more, or that, we see on television or on social media that would truly fulfill us. And we really do ourselves a disservice when we don't take stock of where we are and see the blessings that are all around us, and really celebrate our strengths, our stories, our people, our past, when we don't see those things as stepping stones toward the future that's in front of us. So when you hear those words that you are enough and you are worthy, I hope that you'll take that to heart today and really think about that and just sit in that moment. I think that we all need to be reminded that we are worthy.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch my breath from all that. That's great stuff. Like, that's a great way for us to wind down this episode and hopefully give everybody a chance to just digest those words and to really live out the meaning and feel that they are worthy and share that sentiment with those other people in their lives as well. Everybody needs to hear that, and everybody needs to feel that and believe it. So Rachel, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom. You have no idea. This has blessed me. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Melvin. You are such a blessing to me. I love that our paths have crossed again through Twitter. I think is where we have first met, and that has led to a real life friendship. And again, that's one of the things that I enjoy so much about our life and our culture, that we can do that. And I wish you all the best. Love your podcast. Love what you are bringing to the world. You are a true gift.
Thank you, as I wind down here with a blush. Thank you, Rachel. So that's it for today's episode of Real Life and Other Fantasies. Join us again next time for another great storytelling journey. Until then, don't forget to shine some light and share some light wherever you go. That was another edition of Real Life and Other Fantasies with your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Join us again next time for more stories about more things than you can imagine. Some of those true stories may even be about real life. See you next time.